Hey everybody, welcome to Easy Update. I thought it might be fun because I've been, thinking about Zelda and this new Zelda Breath of the Wild or 2 or
sequel.
The squeakquel. And I thought, well, hey, I have consummate Zelda master Damiani at my disposal, and I thought we should brainstorm. And it doesn't, not talking like Breath of the Wild 2, just like at large, what would the perfect dream Zelda game be?
Let's start. Do we want it to be polygonal, or do we want it to be sprite-based like 2D? Or
I thought Breath of the Wild was beautiful, personally.
Let's go with
what
that.
Do you think? What's your favorite style?
I mean, I like both.
I do
the
love
2D.
sprites.
The 2D ones are probably my favorite, but they've been generally the most consistent.
Could it have sections?
They've looked.
Like Mario Odyssey, like 3D sometimes, 2D sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be kind of cool. Hey, yeah, that could be like
both.
Well, I mean, they did that with A Link Between Worlds. You went
Worlds,
like,
yeah. So we just do that.
Yeah, I would make it go, instead of maybe going 2D, if they could go top down, like classic, like dungeons went into like top down mode.
Oh.
And so you only had like, moving on 2 planes would be kind of cool. Like 2 axes, sorry.
What if you could toggle at will? Like Dark Realm.
That's what you get instead of a map. So there's no,
Right.
they destroy the mini map because that was an option in Breath of the Wild. And people are like, hey, you should really turn it off if you want the full immersive experience.
Yeah.
So we kill the map. I mean, you can fill in your own personal map in the game. Like it'll like fill in as you explore, but no little mini map. So if you need to get a better view, maybe to switch to that toggle button, overhead view. And it looks like classic Zelda, and maybe you'll see something you didn't see, but you can't see in front of you very well. So you go down to, I like that. That could be a cool concept.
Cool.
There's an obvious thing. The more obvious thing is we need to make sure that we can either play as Zelda from the get-go, or we just can play as a female Link.
From your mouth to my ears, Damiani.
It's just like one or the other. Give me one of those two. Just one of those two, and that's a good starting point. We could build from there, but needs to happen. But it's our dreaming. We're making it happen.
Or in this game, to get into, is it Gerudo? Where he had to dress up?
Get into a Gerudo area? Yeah.
He has to dress up. You actually have to like transition to female. So he has to take like hormones for like 4 years.
Dude, that would take a long time to beat the game.
Idea.
Well, no, dude, you could redo the time travel aspects and start riding the Master Sword. They just like advance it. I mean,
dude, what if you could pick at the beginning of the game? You can play as Link, or Zelda, or Linkle, or whatever, the female Link. And based on that choice, you get to go into the Gerudo village or not.
Yeah, like that's an incentive to come back and play again.
If you chose male Link. But male Link gets to do something else that female Link doesn't do or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what that would be.
We'd have to think of something really good because I'm scared about where... I mean, it's our game. We'd make it good. But other people handling it, I'd be scared where it'd go.
It would have to be like incidental.
Yeah.
Like male Link. Oh, you know what it is?
What?
Well, no. I was going to say male Link, like assuming that they're like the same height and dimensions or whatever, male Link, like when he goes over a bridge, it like breaks just by chance or something. But then I was like, well, but I don't want to have a statement on weight or something.
How about we just have them come from like 2 different like origin places, like towns or whatever, and so there's different starting points. So
starting point.
Something happens at a certain point in the game where you can't go back along a certain path anymore.
Ooh.
It's like the starting area, and so you get unique starting areas.
Well, and that would make sense. Zelda gets a unique starting area. Link and Linkle both have the same starting area, but Linkle can go into the Gerudo village.
It could be like if you want Zelda to go to the Gerudo village as well, you could just have it that something happened where she was taken in by like the Gerudo and protected.
Oh.
And so they've been keeping her identity a secret. That's her story. And then now she's going back to reclaim, I want to like make myself known, and I'm going to I'm going to journey back now. Yeah. And something happens and she gets access cut off to going back. And that means like Link and Linkle could never go there because it doesn't exist in their path.
Sure, yeah. So what I'm hearing is we're talking about 2 or 3 different playthroughs.
Yes.
Like because they're different. Obviously, dungeons would be back.
Would love to have like traditional dungeons, sense, and I would like for absolutely none of them to be required, so that if you
none of them,
it just makes the game harder. But like going,
because you get items.
Yeah, you just don't get those items. You don't get some kind of
open world
reward.
Again,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
I would like a hub area, like a Hyrule Castle or just a big town to be like the hub area that that you go to. And if you
different hub areas based on your starting character.
Ooh, that could be cool.
Like Hyrule Castle if you're Zelda, Hateno Village if you're Link or whatever.
And it'd be really cool, like if you're just getting like lost and stuff, instead of having the traditional Zelda thing of, oh, here's like a assistant who will tell you, you have to go back to town and it updates and someone will be like, hey, I was journeying over here. And then like, oh wait, let me go talk to them again. Talk to them again, like I want to know more about that region, and like I came across something strange. Like you just gotta have the progressing a conversation with an NPC past like the first option would be if you're actually instead of just like getting more world building, they might actually say a line that clues you into something. That's been something in previous Zelda games. There have been NPCs when you talk to them, they will eventually say something about an area, and it's like like the first instance. I mean, there's always NPCs that give you cryptic clues, but in A Link to the Past. There was a milk tavern because there's no alcohol in The Legend of Zelda,
right.
And one of the regulars there says, "Oh, like I saw her, the most beautiful thing," and it's this crazy story about some woman in a waterfall, and you're like, "What are you talking about?" But that's how you figure out. Well, there's this shallow water in front of a waterfall. Try walking through it. Whoa, there's this great fairy in here. It's like,
it's the fairy. Oh, that's cool.
So there's been stuff like that. So
I love stuff like that.
They don't have as many NPCs. I just them being more impactful, like on moment to moment gameplay and optional content as well. Yeah. And that you want to like encourage you to get to know them because it opens up more paths to side quest stuff, or opens up a way to progress to the main path differently.
Yeah.
Perhaps more easily.
I've realized a potential problem with our idea is that Zelda talks and Link doesn't. Would Link talk in this game, or if you're playing as Zelda, does she just not talk?
I think Zelda should talk, and Linkle should probably maybe talk. I'm of the mind that if we're going to go this route, just make Link talk and just rip off that Band-Aid and deal with the backlash. And if it's really, really bad sounding to a majority of people, then tweak it. I mean, it's not like they can patch games now with new voice stuff. Like
you just have to get like Tom Holland.
Yeah, no one would get mad with that. That would be perfect.
Tom Holland
there you
as
go.
Link.
Tom Holland as Link would be perfect.
Alicia Vikander as... Basically, you just get everyone from Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
Age of Resistance. Sigourney Weaver's in there.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Yeah.
I've always been curious about
Keanu
Keanu would be and Keanu can be an NPC for sure.
Oh yeah.
Who do you ever get to voice Ganon? But I don't think he'd be in my dream game right now.
To voice Ganon?
But just curious. I've always seen different options. Like Jeremy Irons has been thrown around a few times.
Jeremy Irons would be good.
It's like a more philosophical Ganon, like Wind Waker Ganon.
Gerard Depardieu.
Oh.
Michael Gambon.
Oh.
So you want someone who like...
Yeah.
It depends on the kind of Ganon you're doing. If
you're doing,
it
definitely matters.
Evil force Ganon, then it's just like whatever, a bunch of roaring.
For sure.
If you're doing philosophical Ganon, Jeremy Irons would be good. So you could do worse.
The world design, Ian, especially we mentioned dungeons because we said we want dungeons, especially if they're going to be optional. One of the things I've always wanted to see them try is having like the true freedom to go to any dungeon you want. But I want dungeons that have, if you go into them vanilla essentially without having ever visited another dungeon,
right?
Or you go in there, you can still complete the dungeon.
Oh.
It's just if you had another item, something might be made easier, or an alternate path is now traversable because
like
the easiest one I give you is like the hook shot. There's a whole second floor of a dungeon. You can't get up there because you can't hook shot up there, and there's no stairs or anything to climb up there. It's like, what is up there? How do I even get up there? But then it can make a player waste hours. Like,
would it be like, you could beat this dungeon, but if you beat it with the hook shot and the bomb, you get like the better ending for that dungeon, like the true boss, or like. You know what I mean?
I mean, that'd be a better way to incentivize people to try and go out and get like more items and complete these. More of like a narrative reward. Like here's more pieces of the puzzle to like whatever story we're telling here. Or it was more about giving you more options and potentially making it easier. So the difficulty would be in you can either go vanilla style and complete these dungeons with nothing, and that's pretty challenging in itself. Or you spend all this time to piece together clues out in the world, explore, and you find these. Like, I want these items to not always necessarily be in dungeons. I want them to be rewards for side quest or some other activity. And if you find them, you can then use them in dungeons. And then like it goes back to a little bit more. It's even more Zelda 1 style than even Breath of the Wild, I feel like.
I just had a crazy idea,
What's
Damiani. So every dungeon, the first time you go to it, right? Or if you try to beat it vanilla, there's a vanilla path where you don't use any items to get to it. And that's how you get like all or some of the items, you know? Like the hook shot, you have to go and beat the boss for that dungeon, whatever. But every single dungeon is basically, so let's say there are 8 or 9 dungeons.
Okay.
And every dungeon has 8 or 9 like dungeons also within themselves.
Oh.
So like based on the items that you use. So like if you have the bomb,
I got
that's
you.
a whole other dungeon that leads to a whole other boss. If you have the hook shot, that's a whole other dungeon that leads to a whole other boss.
I like
and
this.
you can do all of them.
We can even go with and we can even go with the theme of these dungeons,
so
like the surface level,
and
we could call like them the underworld or
Right.
like the labyrinth version of them. Dude, I like that. That's pretty cool.
Basically, every dungeon is 9 floors.
I just want
and
a
you can
different
access
user
different floors.
experience if you come in there with different items.
Yeah.
and I don't
And the order doesn't matter.
Yes, but completing them all, I think, should be the only way you get something like the Master Sword or like the best shield or something. And it's not just bestowed upon you. It's that like you get maybe a clue at the end of each, and when you piece together all those clues, it then reveals a location to like a hidden dungeon or a hidden temple or something.
Or this just came to my mind. Maybe this is stupid. The Master Sword has been destroyed.
Okay.
And there's shards of it at the if you beat every dungeon, all 9 versions or all 8 versions, you get a piece, and then the secret last one is for the hilt, and you have to go and get it.
I like this.
I don't know if that fits in the lore.
That or like materials to reforge one. But like I don't want it to just be that simple.
Yeah.
I like the blacksmith who can reforge it. I want it to be a whole separate thing that like, wait, I got all these materials. What are they even for? And like you got to talk to other people maybe online or who are playing it. Like, well, I came across this blacksmith who's in this really obscure cave, and they won't craft anything I give them. They keep mumbling. It's like, but they say they're a legendary I don't know, like something where like I know where I'm going with this, like Souls like stuff. It's like stuff like that, but like I don't want it to fully embrace that. Zelda should never become a Souls game, but there's some elements from it I think lend itself well. The cryptic nature of NPCs and what they do and what items do would be a really good fit, I think, for a Zelda game. So changing, like having extra parts of the dungeon or even dungeon within a dungeon, having those rewards not immediately be clear what they are for, so that like everything keeps pushing you to constantly want to explore more of the world. Because I want it to be, it could be as simple as you don't go in any dungeons, you talk to some people, you figure out what you need to traverse the final area, and you might be able to like beat it that way. And it's a very more of a shallow experience, but I would make it so that the crit path was still a decent game. But for people who go out in the world, I want there to be entire areas of the game you might never see.
Whoa,
because you don't talk to people. Like I want something like encapsulated in like magical mist that like will not move unless you figure out a way to dispel it. And if you just never figure it out, like you just never go to this whole zone over here. It's just like hidden for you forever. And if you go there, it's like, ooh, this is like, there's more story there. Maybe there's a hidden village there or something. Like that sense of wonder that it goes further than just here are 120 shrines, and you might find like that's your incentive.
I think this one wouldn't have shrines because the dungeons would be so complicated.
Yeah. Well, going along that philosophy of like, how do you get people to want to traverse this giant open world? You got to give them a reason, otherwise they're going to get exhausted. And I think this is nice because it makes each area a little bit more dense with things to do in that immediate area, which could keep someone like me very engaged. And then by exploring this world, I think it just fills in a lot of the world building, like just finding out this race of people exists, this town exists. Like it's that sense of awe and wonder, and I like that.
I was thinking about Midna.
And
I was thinking about like weird ways to implement Twilight version of the world, and I thought of 3 ideas.
Okay.
And I'm going to pitch them to you, and I want you to tell me what you think.
Sure.
So for like a mid boss or like the like fake bad guy, if we are doing Ganon, whatever.
Okay.
I was thinking someone like a bad version of that like lab lady from Breath of the Wild, you know? Who's
okay, yeah.
She's like doing experiments with Twilight.
Oh.
And so the first idea I had was her lab starts emanating Twilight, and it starts expanding from her lab and literally changing the map to Twilight versions of itself as the game progresses. And it's the same open world, and it's in real time. You know, probably it would have to be based on like story unlocks or like dungeon progress or something, but like it's expanding and taking over the world. Or when you beat the game, you've actually been tricked by her, and you help her act inadvertently. It's like inverted castle, but basically. But like the whole time you think she's the good guy, and then in the end you think you beat the final boss, but really that's the thing like Shadow of the Colossus that was like holding her thing. And then Twilight is released, and the whole map turns like bad news, and like it's inverted castle status where you basically have like twice the amount of game that you didn't even see coming.
Ooh.
And now it's all Twilight, and you have to like battle her now, but she's got the power. And everything is, you know, or the third one was day-night cycle. Nighttime is actually just Twilight, and everything is like super hard and scary and crazy. Yeah.
Okay.
Of those, I think the second one is my favorite.
I like the second one too the most, Ian. And I think it'd be really cool if you at least gave the player an option if they could figure out the deceit.
Yeah.
So like, cool. Like that's it. Like we're. Crit path. Oh, I beat it. Oh, you were tricked. Haha.
Yeah.
But there's more of the game.
Right.
But you could avoid that, or maybe alter what outcome comes from the end. Like maybe there's still stuff after if you figure out the deceit in a way to counter what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, like deceive the deceiver essentially. Like,
right.
Oh, you think I'm still doing this, but actually, I know what you're up to.
You know what it is? You were talking about having like if you've completed the entirety of dungeons, there's some cryptic weird thing at the end. There are these ancient technology things that you have no idea what they are, and like you have to do puzzles to activate them, and then they like activate, and a voice or a Sheikah or whatever says like 1 out of 8 online or something, you know, and like you're like, what the hell is this for? Yeah. And if you've done enough of them, like the more of those you've activated before you complete her thing that turns everything Twilight, the like more of an edge you have against her and her forces. That plays into
something just like Breath of the Wild. Like if you the benefit you got of completing those dungeons. Yeah, that's a good thing. I think it plays well.
The main thing to me that I loved about Breath of the Wild was just the emergent like narrative stuff in the world and like how well designed that world was. Like you saw something that made you curious, and like just the right amount of times, like 8 times out of 10, you go over there and it leads you in some crazy new thing. And then, like, the 2 times where it doesn't are very essential, I think, so that it's not, like... So you still feel rewarded for finding stuff. Like, there was a giant sword on top of a mountain in Breath of the Wild that I don't think it ever did anything. It was just, like, a cool, weird thing. And, like, that kind of stuff is important, too, because that's just a cool, weird thing. And, like, that's awesome. And so I want that to remain in this, is my point.
I want
all of that stuff.
If we're going with, like... wild dreams here, I really would go even further than what you want in terms of like minimalist story. I've always had this weird crazy fascination with one of the future Zelda game possibly just set literally in Ruins of Hyrule. It's basically gaming Shadow of the Colossus' story that you go to a land that's like no one's been here before or for a long time. So it's like Link is just journeying. Or Link or Zelda's just journeying by themselves. They come across this world and they come across ruins and like you just do what you want to do. You figure out like you keep investigating this, and then like you see maybe murals and stuff, and like you just got to piece together the story of like how this kingdom like thrived once, came to ruin, and then that could be like the indecisions. Like you come across like the Triforce is hidden. So like, did you learn the story? Do you know what to do? Like, do you wish with it and bring a calamity, or do you leave it alone?
Wait. You know how at the beginning we were talking about how you play Link, or Zelda?
Yeah.
You just pick a character.
Yeah.
Male, female, whatever.
Okay.
And you don't know who... You think you're just nobody. And this is like we're like quadrupling down on the Breath of the Wild, like we're thousands of years in the future thing. This is thousands of the years in the future in Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
And so like maybe it's like a similar map to Breath of the Wild, who knows? But you find if like you don't not every player will even find this, but there's evidence to suggest that you are a descendant of Link and Zelda.
There you go.
And then like you're in the ruins of this thing.
Do you want to know how the reveal would be?
Huh.
You get a Triforce mark on the back of your hand.
Whoa.
Because that's like a lore thing that revealed like you were a descendant of like the Knights of Hyrule / Link's descendant or whatever. So like
that's already in the lore?
Yeah, in the older games.
Oh,
like
funny.
through like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, that was like actually it's been in more recent games, but like it's a thing. Like the Triforce symbol or a
How would
piece
we do it so that it's not there the whole time? Like they
you
go
don't know,
to
like you don't see it. Like if it's like you gotta like demonstrate like courage, wisdom, and power.
And it appears.
And then like when you become like it's like in the earliest form, it's like a spell placed over Hyrule that like someone who's worthy of being the hero / worthy of claiming the whole Triforce and using it in a good way, that mark will appear on the back of their hand. So
you know what I think would be a cool way to do it?
Yeah.
You go into this game's version of the Lost Woods, right?
Okay.
And there's a cutscene and the Lost Woods would be like hard to get to. Maybe you only get to it in the Twilight version, like so it's late game. Then only in the light of the Lost Woods, this like mystical, ancient, complex light, you look at your hand and then you see it.
Ooh.
But then like the Deku tree is in the middle or whatever, and the Deku tree is like, oh, that's always been there. You just can only see it in this light. Like you've always had that, like because of your heritage or whatever.
I like that.
Man, I'm getting like, this is exciting.
So I love this. On the flip side, there is a very more story-intensive version of a Zelda game I'd love to see, but it's only because like a lot of the itch that I want scratched was done a little bit in Breath of the Wild with like the expansion, the more expanded lore of the Gerudo culture.
Right.
And a lot of the games that introduce these different races, these different people, and given little nuggets of backstory behind them, but have never fully fleshed it out. Another one is the Sheikah.
Right.
Like there's this whole story that has not been told in Ocarina of Time Shadow Temple. There's the story about like this bloody history of the royal family of Hyrule and how like the Sheikah were part of it, and we don't really get this full story. And it'd be kind of like nice, and if my dream version of the game, all this has happened. But if you go to these towns, you find that lost village. Oh, it's this lost Sheikah village. They tell you like what like it would be cool by your reward for going to these random areas by doing more of the game than you're supposed to. It fills in like significant like world building lore.
Yeah.
That's what I was like getting at. It's like the Sheikah backstory. Heck, even like playing alongside like a Sheikah in a part where like they're using their stealth and stuff to help you clear like a dungeon or something like that would be like kind of cool.
And it'd be cool if you like all of the, because in Breath of the Wild the devices that you activate are pretty straightforward. They're shooting a laser beam at Ganon, right? Like these weird devices that you're doing, and I mean there's precedent for time travel already. So like you're activating all these ancient devices, and like you think, okay, if I do this, it's gonna like illuminate the land again and like make Twilight go away. But really, it just sends you back in time to the Sheikah days, and you just like learn a bunch of stuff, and then like you're armed with this new knowledge that helps you or something. Yeah, and probably some sweet tech.
That would be good.
I don't know.
Yeah, anything that could like that could lead to just learning more about like. There's something cool about like if this even having the races again with more narrative, like having the Gorons, the Zora, like the Breath of the Wild for what it did with the story. Yeah, it's just showing them having like proper towns, interactions again, just showing that a little bit of their history. I like that. Yeah,
I just had a weird thought.
Mm-hmm.
So like let's say all of the nations are there, right? And if we're like far in the future, everything's like really different and weird. What if like they're on the brink of war, all of them with each other? Mm-hmm. And depending on the actions of the main character, you can like befriend or like egg on different races to like go to war with each other. But like maybe you can, if you do play your cards right, you can get all of them
to
unite and help you against this science thing. But like it would be completely up to you and how you played it. Like,
I love this.
In your playthrough, like maybe the Gerudo and the Sheikah or somebody like go to war, and in mine, like what's the fish one? The Zora. The Zora were like my only bad guys or something. You know, like that'd be crazy.
I'd like that. Not I don't think it was in Zelda. I think it was like in general, just thinking of like I think it was like a reimagining Fire Emblem when one day I was thinking about Fire Emblem doing that. Something like that where different countries or different just kingdoms essentially, and playing into the whole thing I was talking about earlier, like if you went to like the Goron kingdom and you did certain stuff there that made it favorable, then you get access to the lands. Now you can access the Goron dungeon. Right. But if it was disfavorable, they might get angry. Now you're hostile territory. You can't. It's dangerous to go there, and like they've locked off their dungeon or whatever. You cannot get there. And with your idea expanding further, maybe they get if they get angry at another tribe and they start going to war. Not only does like their territories become hostile and stuff, but like it spills over and has like more effects in like neutral areas, like the hub environment or something like that.
And like factions that don't like you might attack you, whereas otherwise they wouldn't. And like the dungeons, maybe you could still go in them, but they've got like guards patrolling.
Yeah. Or like even like when you get out, you have to like escape with your treasure type thing. Yeah.
The one very important thing, if we go in that direction, is it still has to feel like Zelda.
Yeah.
It still has to feel like good vibes, kind of.
Really hard. Like I feel like that's the challenging part.
Right. Yeah. And I don't want it to be like. This is something in games that makes me like check out immediately. Is like Mass Effect 3, where it's like you have to get factions to a certain percentage on the map and stuff. Like I don't want any of that.
It wouldn't be that.
Crap.
It'd be something very simple where like it's a quest line.
Right, you did this quest. And you make helped this person. Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm keeping this gemstone of power because it'll power up. I get more attack points. But it was supposed to go back to you because it was a holy relic. And now now we're angry at you, but I'm gonna be able to beat the game easier. Apparently,
that would be a funny choice. Like you could choose to become like super badass, powerful, and piss everybody off, or be fairly weak but make everyone happy. That'd be fun.
I would be
and
really
then you get
cool.
the wisdom.
Yeah, that's it. I was going to go with that. It'd be really cool as if I know it's like 10 years ago. It's the middle of the aughts when it was popular to make good, bad choices. And that like skews you to like, I'm Renegade, I'm Paragon and stuff.
This is all gray area.
Yeah. It would be really
power.
It'd be really cool if like you like your Link or your Zelda, and through your actions you become basically skewed towards power, but like evil, and like you could become Ganon or something.
Whoa.
Like you could, like that's your like ending. Is like when you go for the Triforce, something is like you've done all these despicable acts.
That's dope.
And like and then like you become.
But the game doesn't like telegraph any of it.
No, it doesn't. It's just like you thought you were like you did us all in the name of like an ultimate good, but do you realize by that ultimate good came at such a steep cost? You've become the monster.
Yeah, they're like, look at what you've done.
And like maybe they reveal like that was Ganon's backstory. He was just trying to defend his people to Gerudo, which is legit. But like he killed and murdered people to try and save them. It's like that's going too far. That's why he became corrupted when he got to Triforce and got power only. And that could happen to you. And then like maybe like that's like if you pick like Link, you step into Zelda at that point to fight yourself.
Fun.
Like you have to bring down your character. It's like, ooh, dude, that'd be emotional.
Well, and you know what'd be cool is if you somehow had, if we're doing their descendants again, it would be tricky. But like parallel storylines where like they're both kind of happening at the same time, and you're just playing one or the other, but the other one's still out there like doing stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, having like a changing between character thing been something I think would be cool to explore. Yeah, like you're Zelda for this part of the game.
That's maybe
you just
what they're
play like a
too,
Ocarina song or something, and like, or I mean, simple as a menu option. Switch to Link, who's over here and stuff, and maybe you like link up at some point. Maybe you don't.
Link up.
Yeah, team up. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I think this could be. I mean, obviously, this is all just like pie in the sky weird daydreams, but like that was kind of fun.
It is fun.
Zelda's got a lot of potential. It's like they've made a bunch of games already, and probably just not going to stop making them.
The dream version though would just like disavow all like previous games though. I
loved Breath of the Wild just being like, hey, this is 10,000 years in the future. Maybe all that other stuff is true. Like maybe not. Who knows?
It would not be a direct sequel, nor trying to make sense of past games. Like my dream game would stay as far away from that.
That's why I like being Descendants and so far in the future that you just like, I don't know.
I just want a dream for Breath of the Wild 2 to wrap this up maybe for sequel Breath of the Wild. I just want Link and Zelda to have a chance to go on a picnic. It's a picnic
That'd
scene.
be lovely.
Just like they get to have a scene where they sit down and eat food and stuff, and like they have a conversation.
Did they ever kiss in Breath of the Wild?
No.
Have they ever
The
kissed?
closest thing that's ever happened is they hold hands at the end of Spirit Tracks.
Interesting. But that's like a different reality,
And I guess
right?
Skyward Sword, they're like... Their actions are kind of romantic. Like they made it, even Nintendo played it up that there's some kind of like flirtiness there, but nothing comes of it.
Interesting.
Yeah, like in terms of like the end, like they don't kiss. I mean, they technically there is in Zelda 2 at the end, a curtain drops and you think they kiss, but if you like someone removed the curtain with game code and showed, oh, they actually don't kiss, but it's implied. So there's been implications, there's been pecks and stuff like that, but never a serious romantic connection displayed in game between them.
What if all of this, the first thing Link ever says, like Zelda tries to kiss him and then he's just like, oh, sorry, I'm gay. I was just doing my job, you know?
Yeah, that's his first line.
Yeah,
like,
that's
how
the first thing he ever says.
He's like, "Oh yeah, sorry, thought you understood it. Like,
no,
why would I be doing this the whole time?"
Yeah, this is my job, princess. I don't know.
He just
That'd be pretty
be like,
depressing.
"Excuse me, princess." Then say that.
Not that. I
no.
mean, it'd be fun, but.
Oh
well, all right. This was fun. Thanks, Damiani.
no problem.
Thanks, everybody. What would your dream Zelda
Yeah.
have in it? Let us know in the comments. Fair game, anything, you know, whatever you want. All right. See you next week. Bye-bye.